Yes, Sanjay.
Morning, guys. So today's topic is Apex request. So in administration, we have some components or some processes which runs automatically when a record is created or updated or deleted, right? Like if you see the workflow or process builder or flows, those will be workflow and process builder will be triggered or it may be processed when a record is created or updated. And when we come to the flow, flow will be executed when a record is created or updated or even deleted also. Okay? Now, so there are some limitations to execute some kind of operations like DMLs or some complicated emails or some kind of integration, something like that. So to write some code to execute when a record is created or updated or deleted or even on undelete also, we will be writing the Apex triggers. Okay, so Apex triggers is nothing but a piece of code. Apex trigger is nothing but a piece of code which runs automatically when a record is created, updated, deleted, or undeleted as well. Okay. So in Apex triggers, we have some kind of concepts, some kind of context variables to work with. Means when there are a couple of records created or a record is created, okay, those records will be in those context variables. So based on those context variables, we will be working with the Apex triggers. Right? Now let's see the syntax of the Apex trigger. So you should know that what is a Apex trigger. Apex trigger is an automated process which runs automatically when a DML operation is executed on an object. Okay? So what are DML statements and what are the events? In Apex triggers, we have concepts called events. Okay? What is an event? Event is nothing but DML operation. What is DML operation? Insert, update, delete, undelete. These are these all DML operations are called as events. On which event? Insert event, update event, delete event, undelete event. Okay, and one more limitation in this one is, so when uh, the record is created or updated or deleted, only those automated processes in the configuration will be executed. Means workflow or process builder will be executed on insert and update. Okay, flow will be executed on insert, update, delete. On undelete, nothing will be executed. Okay, so in this case, if you want to perform some kind of logic when an insert is created or something like that, then we'll go for the Apex triggers. Okay, insert. And there is one more point: trigger will be executed twice. Means before running the logic, before insert and after insert. Okay, before and after. See, trigger will be executed twice. Insert, update, delete. Means when you create a record, trigger will be executed twice. When you update a record, trigger will be executed twice. When you delete the record also, trigger will be executed twice. Means two times it will be executed. On undelete, it will be executed only once. Okay. Now, so what are these two? Twice means we are saying that twice record will be executed twice. Means before and after. Before event and after event. Twice the trigger will be executed. What is before event and after event? So to understand this, you should understand the trigger order of execution. You have to by hand this. This is a very, very important question. These many points, 20 points will be there. Okay, additional considerations, you have to learn this. First thing, what is before insert? I mean, before event and after event. See this, there are some points at some kind execute before triggers. So let me give you one small scenario here. Let's say this is the user screen, and we know this is Salesforce database. Okay, when a record is created, okay, what it does is it creates the data into the Salesforce database, right? Means when through the UI user interface, means through the layout or somewhere, when you create or update a record, it will be inserted into the database. Means Salesforce database. So what it does is when you create a record, it won't directly commit the data into the database. Directly commit means it won't store it. It store it in temporary database first. Temporary database in the same place only. So it allocates the space and it stores here, but won't commit. Means it don't say that permanently store into the database. That's called temporary commit. Okay. So here in the order of execution also, first it loads data, means when you create record, so let's take an example of account record, or let's say the student record, or let's say training record. There are some records, right? So when you click on edit, here edit is there. When you click on edit, it loads the data from the database. Then only it will display here, right? First point, it loads the data. Second point, whatever the data you are going to set, let's say I'm going to change end date to something date. Okay? It sets the values. Series loads the new record field values from the request and overrides the old values. First it is loads the original record from the database or initialize the record for an upset statement. Means what it is, see, if it is edit, it loads the data. If it is new record, when you click on new button, it loads empty, right? Empty, everything is will be empty. You have to set the values. Same if it is new record, old values. If it is new record, it just initializes. If it is old record, it displays the old values and you can give your new values, then old values will be overridden. Okay. Then, so when you click on save button, after that, let's say the start date I have not given, then click on save. It displays the validation message, right? That is just, it displays some validations. Those are called system validations. Okay? And before that, so before that, what it does is, before triggers will be executed, means before validating the records itself, means here, so these are layout fields, right? The layout validations, these are, means required the field or field was required or something it is, length was mentioned, something, those are called the standard UI edit based validations, system validations. System runs system validations to check record for compliance with the layout specific rules. Means if it is required, if the field value is not given, then it throws the validation. So required values at the layout level and field definition level means when you create a field, you can check the checkbox called required, right? If that field is not having a value, it validates. So validate, valid format, valid field formats. Let's say you have given something like this one. We can say this is called system kind of validations. This is valid field formats. You are checking for the uh, date, but it's not giving the date. That's why it is checking for the valid formats. And maximum field length means, let's say, when you are creating the field, where it's a text field, you can give the text length. It may be the 100 or 200 or 255 is the maximum. So if you are entering more than 255 or something, then it will throw the validation. So these are system specific validations. Remember that first it loads the original record from the database for edit operation. If it is new record, initialize the record. Initialize the record means it just open a empty record. You can set values. See, and load the new record field values from the request and override the old values. Means when you set some values, those values will be overridden. Okay, means so let's say previously it was 21. Now I made to 11, 15, right? So old values will be overridden with the new values. Then these validations will be executed. Means system validations, field lengths, formats, and other kind of required fields at the layout. Those will be executed. Okay. So execute record flows that are configured to run before the record set. Means you have flows, right? So in the flows, what you can say is before event or something, it can be executed. Okay, that you can, those will be executed at line number, step number 3. Then before triggers. So till now, if you observe that the record is not saved into the database till now. So it's just simply validating that. After that, so after before triggers, here once again validation steps will be executed. Okay, so these are before triggers. It shows that it checks all the null values if there is any validations or something. And again, custom validation rules means you will be writing some validation rules, right? So those validations will be triggered at step number 5. You observe that first it initializes the data or it loads the record and then overrides the values, validate the layout level. Means till now it not entered into the database, just validating here itself. After validation success at this layout level, then when you click on save, it goes process. Means here flows will be executed. Then before triggers will be executed. Then custom validation rules will you have written on that object. All those validation rules will be executed. Okay. At step number 5, validation rules will be executed. Then duplicate rules. You have seen duplicate rules will be executed. Number 6 means before triggers will be executed, rules will be saved into database, but it won't be added. Committed means permanently save the record. Okay, so if you do it right, if it is not committed, then something is failed in any one of that record will be loaded back. Committed means it permanently saved, but here that won't be committed directly into the database. at step number 7. It just stores the data, means allocates the space and put that record into the database. That's it. And then after triggers will be executed. Then assignment, right? Like lead assignment rules, assignment rules are there. Assignment rules will be executed. Auto response rules, workflow rules. See this? Whatever the workflows you have created, those will be executed at step number 11. So workflow rules, if you have field updates, right? Update is also one operation. So again, all steps will be executed. Okay. Then again, escalation rules will be on the case. Okay. And assignment rules will be there on the case and topic and lead case and topic. So here flows. Again, automated process like process builders flows. Okay. Process builders flows will be executed at step number 30. This is very much important. And then entitlement rules. Okay. Again, execute record trigger flows that are configured to run after record saved. Okay. If you see the flows, right? Flows we have said before saving the record, after saving the record, right? That is called before update, after update, something. So again, here roll up summary fields will come. Yes. 16 roll up summary fields. Then on the roll up summary field, if parent is updated, right? Again, that all triggers will be executed. Okay. Then object formulas, formula fields, and workflows, everything will be executed again. Then you have sharing rules. Criteria based sharing rules will be executed at 18th step. Then finally it commits the data. Means if all are executed successfully, then finally it says that yes, store the data into database permanently. And again, after the change is committed, then it executes post commit logic, means sending emails. Even if you have workflow to send an email, that will be executed after 19th step, means after committing the data into the database. This is, you have to by hand this one, but better to understand this. First, it initializes or loads the data, set the values, and just validate all the information which requires on the layout level, and then execute the system validations. System validation means field level requirements, formats, and then null check and everything can be done. Then execute triggers, means trigger flows. Flows can be executed before record save, and then before triggers. Then custom validation rules. Okay, so then duplicate rules. Then after triggers. Okay, so duplicate rules will be executed. After that, it just saves the data into the commit database, but it won't commit. This point is very much important, but it does not commit. Okay, then after triggers. So here, if you understand that trigger is executing twice, before triggers, after triggers. Okay, before triggers first executed, then all validation rules will be executed, custom validations, then duplicate rules. After that, stores the data into the database. Then again, after triggers, twice it is executing. Okay. Now, if someone asks that I have validations in the trigger and I have custom validation rules, which will be executed first? Trigger will be executed first because custom validations will be written in the before triggers. Okay. So then after triggers, assignment rules, auto response rules, workflows, then escalation rules, then flows, means pause builders and others will be executed, and entitlement rules. All these will be executed. Okay. So you have to by hand this one. If you want to just step number 1 to 20. Pause the recording and note down all these things. Okay, so we will see some context variables and syntax of the trigger. See how to create a trigger. You can trigger in two places. So let's say if I want to validate a trigger on an object, or let's say we can take it as student. Here on the object page, you have Apex triggers. Series triggers. You can create trigger here as well. Trigger. Okay. So syntax is like this. Trigger, trigger name, on, object name, then events. Okay. First, let me give the syntax. Trigger, trigger name, on, yes object. Then events. Okay. Trigger, trigger name, on, S object. S object means source object. It may be anything like account, contact, or it may be the standard objects or custom objects. Trigger, trigger name, on, S object, and events. Okay. So what are the events? Okay. Otherwise, what are the events? Events I have already explained. Insert, update, and delete. Okay? Insert, update, delete, and delete. These are the events. Here, and there are two kind of events: before events, after event. Okay, these are before event and after event. So don't get confused. What is before event or what is things? See here, events are here before space insert comma after space. These are called insert events. Then update, then comma after update. You can have one or you can have two. Then before comma after delete. These are two events. After undelete. Undelete does not have before delete. Before and delete. So here, how many events? Before insert, after events, two. Before update, after event, after update, two events. 2 plus 2, 4. Before delete, after delete, 6. Then after undelete, 7. Only those 7 will be mentioned here as the events. Okay. Be careful before insert, after insert, before update, after update, before delete, after delete, and after undelete. 7. These three are the events. Okay. So those are called events. You can keep those events here. All events just mentioned and keep writing the trigger. Okay. So then what are these events? Why? So let's say if you want to execute or if you want to run the trigger only when insert, before insert only. Then you can mention only before insert event and that. Okay. Now let's say, let me write one small example for this one. Trigger. Let's say I'm going to write student trigger. Okay. On which object? Student object. Student underscore C. Then events. Events won't change. So based on the object, events won't change. Okay. Events will be always same before insert, after insert. Okay. Before update, after update, before delete, delete, after. So remember that this is not mandatory to have all the events. Okay? It's not mandatory to have all the events. So whatever the events you need to handle when through the triggers, then you can write your trigger on this. Okay, let's go ahead and write the trigger. So this is one way, and second way is directly you can create through the developer console. New Apex trigger. So what is the trigger name? Student, and you have to select student. Okay, when you click on this, see this, before insert only one event is added. You can add all the events here. Okay, so see this. These are events: insert events, update events, delete and undelete events. Okay, so here one operation is having two types of events. One is before event and after event. But only on the case of undelete, after only after event is available. Okay, before undelete, nothing will be done. Okay, so next we have very important concept like trigger context variables. Okay, trigger context variables. So this trigger context variables, let's say you are editing this record, okay, and when you are clicking save, so if you want to check there are some values or something, then you should have the record information here, right? Okay, so let's say in your workflow, when the record is created or updated, if your workflow is getting executed, then inside the trigger, inside that workflow criteria, we are giving some conditions. Means when a record is created, that workflow criteria will be executed based on the record values. The same way, if you want to check the values, you should have some information like that, right? So we are not getting any records, like we are not querying the data or we are not doing anything. We are just reading the data in that uh, record criteria. That's it. Through the workflow or through the process builder or even the flows as well, right? But inside the trigger, if you want to check for the values where we are doing some operations on the records, then we have those kind of some context variables. Context variables is nothing but whatever the records you are performing the DML operations, like insert records only will be available on the context variables. Okay, those are context variables are okay. So first information. See, we have before insert, after events. Okay. Now I need to check whether the trigger is executing on the before insert operation or after insert operation. It is executing, right? We have trigger dot is before. Context variables always start with trigger is before. If you want to check whether this trigger is executing in the after trigger something, is after. This is trigger dot is before and trigger dot is after. Next, if you are inserting two records or one record, it should be somewhere, right? It should be somewhere. That is called trigger dot new. This new is nothing but list. Okay, so you can perform the DML operation on the list or a single record. Even if you create single record also, that will be in the trigger dot new list. If you if you create 10 records or 100 records also, it will trigger dot new is a list. Okay, again, see, if you want to check the old values, let's say if you are editing the record here, if you edit the record, say this, I'm changing the start date. Now, when I click on save, that old value and new version of values will be there in the trigger dot old. This is also list. Trigger dot new means whatever the new values we are setting, those new values will be in the trigger dot new. So trigger dot old will be holding the old values of the trigger, I mean records. Then trigger dot new map. This is a map. This is a list. Okay, this is a map, means it stores the records in the form of key value, that is key is id, value is a record. Okay, that's why in previous class I have explained you how to store the records in the map. Trigger dot old map, this is also map. Okay, so new map, old map. Then trigger dot size. Okay, what is the size? If you are inserting 10 records, size will be, this is nothing but the list size. Trigger dot new size or trigger dot old size means how many records you are inserting. Those record size is nothing but records length, records size, size of list. Okay, so is before, is after, new, old, new map, old map. Okay, then again. Trigger dot is inside. Is that correct? Text variables. So you have to check. See, here we are saying that the trigger will be executed twice, right? Before, after. So you have to check whether this is the insert or update, right? Then we have context variables. Trigger dot is insert, trigger dot is update, trigger dot is delete, is undelete, all things. Then again is executing. So if the logic is executing through the trigger, all will be used trigger dot is executing, trigger dot is insert, trigger dot is update, trigger dot is delete, trigger dot is before, is after, is undelete. So new map, old map. So operation type. So what it is. So this is before insert, after insert or something. What type of operation it is. Okay. Then these are the trigger context variables. Write down them, all of them. So this is the new one they have introduced. Operation type. The old one, it was not there. trigger context variables. Okay, you can pause the recording, please.